Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 291 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we're going to get started on titanium, but we're going to get distracted by fixing a huge power shortage. Enjoy. Well, that covers just about everything with the exception of the titanium items, so let's do that. Gives us access to the titanium gear wheels and also the bearings, and the bearings are going to require lubricant, and also the pipes. And, usefully, a giant titanium chest with a storage size of 80. So even though it's small, it'll be quite big. So that'll be a more dense way of storing things if we wanted to store it that way. One thing I am curious about, though, is the underground length. So this has an underground length of 23. Is that better than what we have? No, it's the same as ceramic. And since ceramic comes from silicon and we have more than enough of that, we should probably stick with the ceramic stuff for now. Okay, now we get to go through here and hit all of the things that titanium locked. Well, we could do reverse factory 4. That will help us grind through resources a little faster when we've got extras. So sure. Repair pack 4? Yeah, sure. I imagine it will help the bots get their job done faster and more efficiently if the repair packs hold more durability. It probably doesn't really matter though. Nonetheless, that since repair packs don't use the previous tier, it's pretty easy to make. And then, hey, a little bit of military research. That just requires the previous ones and titanium, so we'll upgrade that when we upgrade the wall. But hey, it uses military packs, so that's always nice. And then better mining drills, that will help. Gives us more space for modules and just higher speed. And it's a good thing we made all those green circuits because now we have them available. It might have seemed like I made those green circuits a little soon. And I guess in some ways I did, even though we were using the green circuits for a couple of things like upgrades for our character. It is nice though just to have it done before you need it. So when you do need it, you're not like, hey, yeah, let's do mine drill 4s. And then you're like, oh, green circuits. And then you like look at what you have to do to make that happen and it gets depressing. So I try to have all of the materials kind of ready before I need them. But yeah, those would be good. And of course, basically everything gets unlocked with this. Where we get our better pump jacks that uses the green circuits. And the water pump jacks for the same thing. And the queue is full. Well, when that train gets here, one thing we're going to need to do is make a bunch of gears and the bearings as well. But we're kind of running out of space here, and I do want to keep this space down here available just in case this wants to expand. So, as a result, we probably just want to kind of push this over. And luckily, we've got a nice reserved area for however big this ends up being. What is that? Oh, I guess we missed a swamp garden right there. But it's nice to just have plenty of room to expand as required. I'm not sure how far we want to go with this. Boat to like out there, because that's kind of where the water starts up. Alright, so it made a second titanium request, so let's make sure that it's not clogged. It looks like it's fine because the first titanium train is gone now. Because it's about to arrive. And there it is. This one here is for our batteries that we don't have. Then we gotta clean it up. There's not too much going on here, so I guess we can just use our personal robots for this. Let's see, is the crafting time the same? It is. Resource requirement is the same. And the titanium bearings are basically the same. They just require the lubricant, which there's tons of space here to do so. One thing though is I'm not terribly sure why these are so spaced out, why there's these big gaps right here. Seems like it wouldn't need it. Well, whatever. So we'll grab one. Move it on to the other side of this. 2 spaces. Ah, robots. So switch to titanium. They are using the red inserters in here. We might as well just replace them with blue, since that's what we have, and that's what's fastest right now. Hook up the lubricant on both sides. So what do we have here? We should have about half of the belt, and we do. So now we take the same thing, smush it a little closer this time. Okay, well, we might as well let the research kind of pile up again so we have a bit of a buffer, because we do have some things to make, so we might as well try to get these things made. We need a new bus slot. It's probably going to be this one up here. Some more solder. That's great. That's great. I think that next request will finally make it so we're not overloaded on zinc anymore. Okay, there's the titanium. And it's not in coil form now, so we will have to retrofit this bus to use coils. So basically we'll have the coils come down here, chop them up, and then send them back up there like we have before. It is what it is when your technology changes. You could retrofit every single setup, but that would be pretty annoying to add plate choppers where there were none. So this is good enough. How are we doing with those accumulators? They're just kind of holding because there's no cobalt left, so I think what I was stating before, everything's fine as long as things are still being made. Well, things aren't being made anymore, but we have enough of them placed right now to where we have significantly improved our accumulator charge, almost to what my original goal was of 500, so we did get our benefit out of it. Just not quite as much as I was hoping. That's okay. As we produce resources for other things, we will be making slag, which will then turn into more. And there we go. Look at that. Zinc is now not locked anymore. Did a bunch of stuff turn on because of it? Oh yeah. Look at that. We're actively making cobalt again. So that's a huge increase compared to what we were used to. And getting tiny little bits more from our crystallizers. So that's great. Quite happy with that, and then they will keep running it down to about 60k and then stop. We might actually want that to be even lower, since zinc really isn't used for that much. You see that the plates just go into zinc batteries and fuel cells, and that's it. So I almost feel like the number that would call zinc being overloaded should actually be quite high, since it essentially, at least for right now, the only thing we're using zinc for is as an alloy for other resources. So it's kind of a dead resource in that way. So we probably, to prevent the bus from getting clogged, want the on-hand zinc to be as low as possible without turning on any other methods. So let's see how we have it set up right now. Well, the direct way would be the best way, and that's set to 10,000. So it has to get below 10,000 before it'll even really turn on at all. So how about we call the zinc overload limit as 20,000. So it will run all the way down to that point where everything else is basically set to 60,000. So doing this will hopefully minimize the possibility of being stuck on zinc. So that one's set to 60. Let's hit it to 20. And they're both linked here. So we got to do that. And actually probably need to kind of go down the bus here and look for anything else. We probably want to turn off our roboport for now so we're not helping the robots here. But let's go down here and set all of them, because I believe every single one is set the same way. Well, that's the primary way, so that's always on. That's nickel. There's another zinc. So we set that to 20, and zinc stops there, so we must have it. You can see how it goes down so fast after being overloaded for so long that one train comes through, and even though it's just an alloy, it's not even the primary resource. It's like before you know it, bam, you've used it. How is concrete going? No power? Oh, well, I was just saying our power was fine, but apparently it's not. How did that happen? Pumps in place? They do seem to be in place this time. Everything that can go is. Interesting. I wonder if it's just the robots we're just using it all. Well, we're not quite using everything. As you see, there are burner heat sources that aren't running yet. And do we have the next tier of them? We probably do. So we could really go nuts if we wanted to. Yes, we do. Well, fuel blocks are our primary fuel source, and we're nowhere near using it all. Actually, we kind of are, now that I think about it. Because this is essentially empty. It always keeps it a little bit on hand, but it's essentially empty. But at the same time, if power is low, that's going to cause issues. And that has like 82 and it's going down, so we're actually using it faster than we can make it out, but that has a big supply. So, yeah, I'm thinking we need to come through here and upgrade this. Let's make sure we're making them. Pretty sure we are. Well, as annoying as it is to be low on power, the sun's about to come up. And making that build would be a lot better if we had access to the turbines, which would make it a lot smaller. But do we care, because we're essentially just going to be pushing the things down here, so it won't really save us that much space or anything. We know we need 40 of these, but we don't want the fluid burning ones, we want the regular ones. I think we want to make 80 of them because we have 2 sets. We'll just grab enough so we can change them in place. And it looks like those robots have finally made their way through all of that concrete, so they've been working hard as well. We're this close to having nuclear power, but we're not quite there yet. And there we go, we used up all of those blocks, although this is a giant buffer of blocks though, so we still have quite a bit. But let's upgrade this here. Let's see, and since these run hotter, we're going to need to have hotter of the heat pipes as well. And that'll be heat pipe 2. Don't know if we have any on here, but let's just kind of get rid of this so there's no junk in there. And we'll do heat pipe 1. Oop, not heat pipe 3. Number 2. It is nice that it takes out the thing you just selected there. But that'll let us replace all of those. Don't want to replace any pipes. And might as well get this side started too. Because these fuel blocks are our best way of making power right now. And they are using up that huge supply of oil residuals to do so. So it's a pretty good idea to be making power in this way. Okay, well we're going to want to have the better heat exchangers. It's interesting that it's using steam engine 3s, but only these red heat exchangers, not the blue ones. That's probably causing, yeah, a significant reduction in power. As you see here, it's only running at 2/3 efficiency, so that's not good. All right, heat exchanger 1 to heat exchanger 2. And if these need to be upgraded, probably everything in this power setup needs to be upgraded. Let's take care of the fuel blocks first, and then we can handle that. So, is it saying we don't have them? No, we do. It's just making stuff. Wow, all of this running, and it's barely using any of these, so we're going to need quite a bit. Okay, I can never remember, but when we do a blueprint, is it going to include the new versions of things? Oh, it does. Why is Factorio so awesome like that? Okay, well, we kind of just want to copy this whole thing down. And we are using pump water here. Let's see, is that a different factor here on how much water they use? No, the better boilers make less pollution. And they make more power. But they consume the same amount of water in the end. Okay, well, we're making 2 more of these. So we would want to have basically 2 of these, where one would connect there, and then the next one would connect right there, and then we'd want 2 more of them. One of them to connect right here, and right there. So I think I got those all lined up. We might have to move some of these pipes around, but I'm just trying to get it kind of close. Alright, well, this road is in the way, and those are a lot of nice robot parking spaces. I don't want to take that away from the robots. So let's put it down here instead. And let's take a look at the alien terrain again, which we rarely see. And I'm doing this just because for some reason you can't replace the road. It's just kind of how the mod is designed, where you have to pick the roads up manually. You see how like even old concrete was beneath the road, so you can place the road on top of stuff. I think it even influences your walk speed. I could be wrong about that, but since we're here cleaning up road, we might as well clean up this little bit too. And robots know how to do this already, so they can keep working on it. And some of this is probably gonna get all messed up when we pick it up, but we'll see. What are we looking like? Yeah, kind of problematic. We'll just fix it in a bit, because now we've got to copy this stuff, and let's try to do it all in one go, both sides. Like that. So when we place it here and space it down, line it up, it should place pretty well. Maybe we can just mash it in there. I think so. Probably turn on our RoboPort again here. And then to fill in this gap, I guess we could just kind of put these in here. They will be powered directly by this, which isn't really how I was doing things, but it'll be fine. Just means they'll be powered directly by the power setup and not the electric network as a whole. Which is alright, but this can't be here, or at least this connection can't be here. I think I'll just pick it up so it doesn't reach. For this to work, each one of these power setups has to be independent of the main network, so that's connected. Looks like those are already reaching. Alright, we need to get the pipes in here. So let's stop the pipes one spot early. Then that allows that to go down. And do the same over here. And that should all be connected. We need the heat pipes, which just need to zigzag a bit. Okay. How are we doing on blocks? Are we building up any? Trying, although we're definitely using them faster than we're making them. Although there's probably some room in our factory to expand our block output if we really needed to. Let's see, those are connected by that over there, so we want to click over here to figure out what's going with the factory. That is a lot of power. It looks like it's just the power of everything. We're almost running at a gigawatt. And actually, this is bad. We're using the accumulators right now to do this. And it's in the middle of the day. And it's about to be nighttime. So, yeah, it looks like when everything's going, we're definitely over a gigawatt now. And thanks for doing your job, gathering turrets. Well, now that those are upgraded, definitely getting a lot more steam out of this. Well, now we need 4 more pumps of water. And we've got space right here, so we might as well. We could do the pump jacks that go underground, but since we're right next to water, we might as well use it. And we could manually make these if we had some titanium in our inventory. So let's just go grab some, I suppose. It is going to take the robots a little bit of time to bring the items down here. Let's see, one of these isn't running at all. Should be wood blocks. So why aren't we making any wood? Oh, I bet I know why. I bet it, we're not making any extras from this system here. I guess we are, to a small extent. So where'd all the wood blocks go? Could just be the factory is too big. Yeah, these are all moving. We could upgrade these to make more wood, which would help. But that's mainly just for infinite resources. right now, probably the very best way of making power is just to grind out the fuel oil here. Looks like we switched over from cobalt to titanium because now we can make zinc. That's interesting. They're probably just kind of fighting for resources. Let's see what it's actually doing here. Oh yeah, it's totally fighting. But I think the way that these are set up is that they won't actually switch if there's a tie. Looks like we're going to be making titanium for a while, but we're short on titanium too, so it's not that big a deal to be waiting on it here. We need to make a couple pumps. Looks like it doesn't take much at all. To make these, I'll just fill up with 200 of them, so we have them for later. Then we can use bots for this once it's more permanently set up. So the factory's moving along. Even though we're kind of at resource overload in places, it's slowly catching up. Slowly catching up. It's just with nickel. Without that military research, it's very difficult to get rid of it. Although, now that we are making cobalt from slag here, it means that we potentially could use those cobalt ingots as a dump for nickel, because we didn't ever connect this because we're like, when are we ever going to have cobalt to do this? Well, if we're actually making cobalt from stone, then this could be a way of getting rid of that nickel. But until this bus is actually filled with nickel to where it would make it here and be used, there's probably no point in doing that. Alright, here's our better pumps. So sun's going down. How is the power? Is it pretty bad? Oh yeah, it's pretty bad. Still using a huge amount of power. Although part of it is probably just the fact we're placing all these accumulators down, and every time we do, it takes power to fill them, so that could be contributing to these power issues here. I just don't want to go nuts and make a new huge power setup when nuclear is basically right around the corner. Okay, water is connected, so these should be ready to go once the heat gets down there, and it looks like it's trying. It's pretty far for the heat to go, though, which is kind of an issue. But it is warming up, so it's trying to do something. And there we go. Everything's trying to start up here. Another thing we can do is just move like half of these and put them down here instead, so the heat can reach. But they're warming up. They are making it down here. It's just slow going. But it looks like we're holding out, where all of these steam engines are providing enough power for the factory to operate right now. So how are the blocks doing? And they're getting used. So it looks like we are successfully using more blocks than we are making. So burner heat source to burner heat source 2. That should upgrade all of this. Even though we're making power, we're just about to run out of it again because we just can't make it fast enough. So, is there anything we can do to help? Oh yeah, I think we were kind of belt limited here, where we're kind of trying to do some stuff here, but you can definitely see that these machines in the back are not using all these resources, and these aren't quite maxed out yet. So, this is something that blue belts would help with. Of course, then we'll probably have to upgrade all of these belts. But one thing at a time. Because we're not quite maxing all this out yet. It's a weird random belt right there. I wonder if I put it there for a reason to mark something. I don't know. I don't see anything weird. Okay, so what is the output of 2 of these? Well, definitely more than a red. It's more than a blue too, but that's what happens when you upgrade one thing, is that you end up having to upgrade everything. So let's do that. See what we can get out of this. couple hours away from daytime here. And we're almost out of blocks. Let's see, why aren't these going? I guess they're not actually connected. So those go straight through, those go straight through. Wait, how is... It sure seems like it's connected to me. They're hot enough. Let's see, there's no water. Ah, okay. That explains it. There we go. We're hooked up. Probably making a ton of power. And they've actually been unhooked. And that's because the accumulator charge is where it needs to be. And there we go. When it drops below the certain point, all of those fire up. So we are very close to running out of power here. But I think we will be fine. At least for this night. It's awfully close to running out. Meanwhile, looks like this thing is just about maxed out. Of course, we can get more out of it with blue belts. Because these machines only have the agricultural module 2s right now. So we would get a lot more out of it with 5s. And we are running low on our fuel oil. But there's room for speed modules in here, so it's not too big a deal. Alright, let's do module inserter. We want to do desert farm. And I believe we have these modules somewhere. It would have been kind of weird if I didn't make them. Well, we'll find out in a second. Although these are actually basic farms. They're not even the desert farms. Because the desert farms would basically be like twice as fast. Let's see, the standard farm is a crafting speed of 1 and the desert farm is a speed of 2. So the basic farms can make everything, but the special biome variants can only make their biomes, but they're twice as fast. So that was an interesting thing. I wonder if we just didn't have access to them at the time. We need to make desert environment kits. And since this is an unusual thing, let's just select it all here. We have 100 of them. So that means we need 100 desert environment kits. And that would require 500 plant life samples. Luckily, we have a plant life sample generator, so that's not too big of a deal. It's amazing how you get distracted. We were working on doing some research, making some titanium items, and then suddenly, factory disaster. Let's ignore what we're working on and do something else. But that's how it is. Oh, interesting that we are down to 35,000 of manganese, so despite having it have the highest priority, it looks like it's still going to be all consumed eventually. So I imagine it's running anytime it can. But I guess it just doesn't need to run right now. Because it's basically running for iron, so as long as iron is fine, which it is extra fine, then we don't need to run it for anything else, so. Alright, seems good, I guess. There is priority for the different destinations of it, so things will turn off as we have less and less of it. So we need to get 500 of these. There we go. And that can make 100 desert environment kits, which we can. Oh, they take so long to build. Well, if that's the case, I kind of don't want to build them quite yet. I wonder if we have any farms. I'm thinking we probably don't, but I bet I, like, pick them all up. We need soil. I was thinking I could just pick the farms up and put them back down, but doing that would put a bunch of junk in our inventory. Whereas if we made a few farms to just drop on the ground, then the junk stays in the farms. Alright, looks like we caught up with our accumulators, but I'm kind of afraid of placing more down if we're still having power issues. So I really want to see if the accumulators charge up by the end of the day. And actually they probably won't, because these solar panels are sized based on having less power. So maybe another question is, how many fuel blocks do we have by the end of the day? Okay, there should be some soil in here. Let's make like 5 farms. And then that'll let us make 5 of the good farms. Could put this on the bus, I guess, but it uses some weird resources that we just don't use very often, so I don't know how much of a value that would be. It's probably going to be way too much productivity with all of these farms, but I guess we could preemptively upgrade these belts here to blue, because we know we're going to want them. Okay, got these farms in place here, and it looks like we've done pretty good for ourselves over the night that we have held, and the accumulator charge is never quite filling up because our solar panels just can't keep up with it anymore, which is fine. I don't want to build a huge solar farm when nuclear power is a couple of researches away, but luckily I think that our new fuel box setup has done pretty well, that it's actually holding up, so producing more fuel here has helped. So we've got all these new farms, and we are running low. Looks like we're actually going to be out of saline water, which is funny. But I mean, we've been dumping it up until this point, so it's no big deal. Now we can use module inserter here to replace all these. And do we have extras? Yes, we upgraded. So they will be down here eventually. So even though there's a huge shortage of resources right now, when those modules get in here, that should help out quite a bit. And definitely a lot of this stuff is probably not fast enough, but since at this point it appears like we have something that works, I don't want to go too nuts trying to replace all this, since it seems to be going pretty good. One thing though is that we're using a ton of drones, because these fuel blocks only stack in units of 20. They're doing all of this just for this one path. So I feel like we should just replace them with a belt instead. Just in case this is hooked up to something, I don't think that it is, but I'm going to leave the depot in place for now. And do something like this and snake around all over the place. Since the production rate is so slow, these yellow belts will work fine, but I guess I'll leave it hooked up here. And since it's already red, just leave it as red. And the drones do use fuel oil, so not using them will help. Hey, the robots are getting here. See if we can get a little more out of it. It's definitely a lack of sand here. Do we have any better washing plants? No. Yeah, let's put a speed in here and see what happens. Since we're thinking about it, let's try to max a lot of this out. Probably going to want to make this blue. Man, speed modules are powerful. Well, if that worked, then I guess efficiency module for everything else. Looks like we have some inserters inserting on both sides also for belt limitations, but oh well. See, it's not quite making it down on some of these here still. Well, blue belts solve problems. Seems to be mostly making it to the bottom here. All these belts are full again, so that has caught up. And these don't have the fastest speed modules they could have, so they could be upgraded again. So let's do that. Some inserter limitations now. But luckily we've got better ones of those too. Seems like they're doing the best they can. But these machines are kind of maxing out a bit. Looks like we're maxing out on vegetable oil. These have no modules in them. So those are running at full blast, so we upgrade them. And start putting speed modules in here. Kind of surprised there aren't any in there already. Guess we just haven't needed any up until this point. Let's see, it looks like this is running a little slow here. And also, we're short on the purified water. Well, we can make the next tier hydro plant, so I guess we might as well. It's kind of annoying handcrafting it, but I don't want to wait for robots to get here. Okay, so they're not quite fast enough, so we'll put in some speed modules. And that maxes it out. So the raw vegetable oil is running out, and that is the source here. And we're basically belt limited here, where we've got our 4 belts going in, coming from over here. So I think we've gotten just about as much as we can expect out of this. So I guess we'll put like efficiencies and pollutions in here. Building up the fuel oil again. I suppose we could also upgrade this to make more blocks. Probably should, because it looks like we could potentially use a few more. So these things are very old. Well, they're probably balanced with each other. So let's just leave them the way they are and let robots come in here to upgrade them. Despite running all this, looks like we still have plenty of residual gas left over. So it's about the middle of the night. Looks like the accumulators are basically okay. And we get all these upgraded. Let's give each one a speed module and see what happens. So it gets that below 80%. Which means now these ones need speed modules. And it looks like it's now clearing through the fuel oil here. So if everything is running at full blast, which over here it is, at least as it relates to belt limitations, then we've gotten what we can out of it. That's a lot of fuel blocks though. I mean, way more than we were making before. So we're doing pretty good here. We'll just give it a nice compliment of efficiency and pollution cleaning here. And hopefully that covers us, because that's a lot of fuel we're making right now. Especially when it's multiplied by 300%. And in fact, we can kind of figure it out. Where all of these, if they were going at full blast, would be 13.75. And each one has 50 megajoules. So 13.75 times 50 megajoules gives us 687 megawatts. But since most of the burners have a productivity of 300%, and I believe that's 300% additional. Kind of curious how that works, but let's say it's 300%, then that would be 2 gigawatts. Neighbor bonus, well, 300%, so it's probably times 4. But either way you look at it, that's a lot more power than we had before. And I guess we could upgrade all of these too, because their power generation wasn't upgraded. Even though everything else was. So that'll help that too. Okay, well, resources are kind of holding out. Zinc got maxed out again because we were using it on other stuff, but doing reasonably okay here. I think we're done with power. So that was a pretty big detour, but it had to be done. Nothing worse in Factorio than just running out of power and just staring at your dark factory. Yeah, it looks like the robots are getting pretty close to done with all of that concrete. And we're also starting to run low on crushed stone, so it's another good opportunity to just let it build up again. But that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we're going to get back to work on that titanium build. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.